thinking for a long time how to start this video because it needs to be concise and compendious, but I also want it to be very, very comprehensive. And I guess the best place to start is at the beginning. There's been many different versions of my life story, which have been put on the internet as of late and from many years ago. But I'm going to give a very, very quick overview of my story. My life has always been difficult. I've certainly had a difficult life. I preach to the people who follow me that as a man, trauma and difficulty is extremely important because it's the building blocks for mental fortitude and physical fortitude.
I totally agree with that point. Me and not the friend that I've just mentioned, but another good friend of mine in the gym, we just spoke about this just yesterday. He made like a casual joke about someone else that we were saying, oh, someone's not like working hard. And my friend said to me, he was like, he doesn't have trauma like us. When you have trauma like us, you have like this burning desire to achieve. And I think you guys watching this have probably experienced that. Like if you've been through hard times, you have the capability to become a strong man. Some people crumble under hard times and some people use it as an opportunity when they see that the obstacle is the way. That's a fantastic book, by the way. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. So that's what Andrew Tate's saying here, that he's had a hard life and that's created him, or that's allowed him the opportunity to mold himself into becoming a strong man, which I can't help but respect. I've stayed very silent about Andrew Tate. I've barely mentioned him, like here and there, very few times. And you know, there's so much controversy around him. One of the things that I've always wanted to say, I don't even know, maybe I've been a pussy all this time and I've just not really spoken up. Maybe I should have, but like, I've always fucking liked him, man. I don't know if that's like controversial or some shit to say. I've always really fucking liked him. And this is where everyone will be like, oh, well, not everything he says, bro. There's a lot of things that I can think of my mind that has become a positive impact because of his work. Like he's blown up on social media. He's spread a message of masculinity and of strength and of intolerance. And intolerance is how you grow to become strong. This is like the epitome of a strong masculine man, and I can't help but to respect that. And of course he triggers your emotions. Of course he triggers the emotions of millions of people, but that's what a strong man's job, not really a strong man's job is, but that is just that the modern society around us is unappreciative of like these strong male archetypes, because they're not totally needed by the vast majority of the population just yet. When there's a war breaking out, you're going to want this guy on your side, but there isn't like a war breaking out in the West just yet. But I've said before, very recently, that I think the hard times are here, but not in the sake of war, but more so in the mental struggle that young men are going through with depression, with mental illnesses. The hard times have already started for so many of us who've been depressed for like years and years and years, living shitty lives, that we haven't lived with loneliness. And here we have a guy who spread out a very positive, inspirational message that hundreds of thousands of young men are saying has helped them, and I will be one of them as well to say yes, he's helped me. And the biggest thing for me personally is what he has done for my friend Sam. Sam, his YouTube, let me show you his YouTube. His name is Harvinator. This is my best friend, and like I see this guy as my brother, Sam. And I've not watched this video fully either, but like what Andrew Tate's message has done to Sam to actually give him a level of fucking confidence about himself, to like start seeing himself as a man. It's an incredible thing seeing like your best friend who was previously a very like weak boy, like raised with like single mom and everything, to turn into a guy who's actually got some level of fucking like balls about him now. I can't help but respect Sam, and I can't help but be appreciative for the guys that have helped Sam become who he is today. And Andrew Tate is a big role model for him, and so is the CEO of Testosterone Jack. He's done a lot for him as well. Anyone who like helps Sam, I can't help but like respect them and like really like them, because like that's my fucking brother. This guy here, we met him in Thailand. This is the one actually. This guy, his name's Jack. We met him in Thailand. He became a good friend of ours, mine and Sam. And he actually put us way more onto Andrew Tate. So of course I'd heard of Andrew Tate before this, but he was the one really saying like, wow, I love his message. Like you should watch more and more of it and everything. He was telling us to watch more of it, and that's when my mind really started to formulate on seeing Andrew Tate as like more of a positive role model, at least for myself and for Sam, who was next to me.
So I'm very, very happy that my life is difficult, because it's impossible to become a capable man or a man of my capability without struggling with facing serious adversities, without trying to overcome often insurmountable odds. I grew up in south side of Chicago. I'm obviously a person of color. I was bullied in school to a degree, and my father always taught me to stick up for myself. I was never allowed to run and cry to authority. I was told that if someone wants to mess with you or come at you, you can't always go tell the teacher. Sometimes you have to deal with it. I was actually picked on by these two kids when I was riding the school bus home. I think I was around 5 and they were around 7. They were a bit older than me, and they used to pick on me in the school bus. They'd sit behind me, throw things at me, hit me, etc. And I came home and I told my dad about it. I said, Dad, these two kids are picking on me every single time I get to the school bus. I don't know what to do. And my dad said, I'm not going to call the teacher because the teacher ain't on the bus. I'm not going to call the school bus driver because they're busy driving. Son, if you want to deal with this, you're going to have to deal with it yourself. And I said, but Dad, they're bigger than me. What do you want me to do? There's 2 of them and they're bigger than me. And at the time, I'd just come home from school and I was holding a lunchbox. And my dad pointed and said, you have a lunchbox, son? Teach them. So weeks had passed. It was a few weeks. They kept picking on me, and I felt myself sitting there getting more insecure, and the rage was boiling inside of me. And one day, one of them slapped me in the side of the face from behind. I was sitting on the chair. He slapped me in the face from behind. And instantly, I don't know what it was, but this was the day I had enough, and I turned with my lunchbox and swung it over the back of the school bus chair and caught him and busted his eye clean open. Classic Batman lunchbox. Hit him in the eye.
Well, how do you feel about this story so far? A kid is getting bullied. So Andrew Tate as a kid is getting bullied. He's getting hit. He's getting assaulted by like kids who are bigger than him, and 2 kids as well. And finally, he's defended himself. is that so far just what we've been told here? And of course, you know, oh, is this true or not? We can break that into an argument as well. But just if we imagine that this is a true story, is this positive or negative for you? Because with the conditioning that we've been through in school, I remember that this would be an incredibly negative thing, that you're not allowed to defend yourself. You're supposed to go run to the teacher to help you. Always wait for the authority to come and deal with your problems. It's a very like feminine way that we were raised in school. It's like, nope, put your hand up and tell the teacher. Face social how'd you say that word? Ostracization, where like you'll be made an outcast if you're seen as a snitch if you tell this teacher like, oh, you know, these guys are picking on me. Or do you deal with it? Because how I'm imagining when I was a kid and I was going through problems similar, and like chances are you're watching this, like you probably experienced shit just like this. You probably experienced, like, you know, you were young, just some random fucking little kid picking on you. And of course now we're older, we understand that kid who was picking on you had trauma at home. He was getting abused, maybe sexually assaulted at home. That's why kids rarely act out in these areas, is because generally they're always getting abused at home, and so they kind of like unleash that same power dynamic in school, but to someone lower than them. But at that time, when there is a threat in front of you, when you're getting assaulted, and of course you're 5 years old, they're 7 years old, it's only like a child version of assault, it absolutely fucks your self-esteem. Like, I don't know if you've been like bullied before, if you've been the victim of racism. I've experienced a lot of racism in my life. Like, we moved to the UK when I was 3 years old. I was the only, like, we were the only brown kids in the school. I think there was like one other brown or black kid in like my primary school, my high school and stuff. Like in my high school, maybe like a couple of brown families, but so like dispersed. And the amount of shit that I went through, and the amount of times that all I heard was like, oh yeah, make sure you go run to the teacher and tell them that, you know, to tell off the other kid. And those times where I listened to that, you know, some kid hit me or like called me a packy or any of this stuff, and I went to the teacher, and you know, the teacher would generally take it pretty seriously, write it down, and you know, like I'd see the student getting pulled out of class. But after that, when that same student would be coming back into class and say, oh yeah, Hamza snitched on me, and then you're like that social outcast where like you're a little bitch, you went to the teacher instead of dealing it with yourself. I don't know if this is like if this is a bad thing to say, but what would I tell my child to do in that situation? The thing is, my son would never be in that situation. This is a very off-topic rant, but like, my children are not going to fucking normal schools. I have the huge privilege that I've worked very hard at this age, that I'll be extremely wealthy when I do have children, so they'll be homeschooled. I am not sending my child to like some normal ass school where they're getting conditioned by these like teachers to become more feminine, to give up their masculinity, but also to be put in a class which is inducing trauma inside of them, which is conductive towards bullying and harassment. I think back to my time in the education system, and it's so fucking like negative. And of course there was like some positive, oh, you know, we got to make friends and stuff. Like the smallest, like the lowest hanging fruit is like, oh yeah, well, we had some fun times. A waste of fucking time, man. And I remember like there was so many days like I would pretend to be sick. How interesting in that is that like there was hundreds of days where I would pretend to be sick and hopefully take the day off school. Why is that such a common thing for like young boys to try and do? For young boys to want to skip school? Like, we don't want to go there. We don't feel safe there. We don't feel happy there. We feel like we're going against our natural impulse when we're sat inside school, this classroom. You're told to like sit still, be quiet, don't do anything, don't talk to your friends, and like learn in this feminine way. And then there's a boy who hasn't failed that same shit test, who's being loud and arrogant and stuff, and he's like bullying you. And I don't even blame that fucking boy. The whole system of the education system is very, very corrupt.
And blood started squirting everywhere. All the children started screaming. And as I did this, the bus had just come up to a stop. It was a few stops before my stop, but it had stopped. And as the bus stopped and the screaming happened, I just got up and I just ran off the bus and ran home. I've never run so fast or so far in my life. I was full of adrenaline. I just ran. When I got home, I had blood on my clothes, and my dad looked at me. He said, what happened? And I said, that kid, I won't say his name, I said his name at the time. I said, that kid, he hit me in the face, and I had enough of getting hit in the face. And I was still holding the lunchbox, but it was all smashed up where I'd hit him with it. And my dad kind of smiled a little bit and said, don't worry, son, get in the car. We got in the car, and we went to Walmart. We walked up and down the aisle, and he looked and picked up another lunchbox, an exact replica of the same blue Batman lunchbox, gave it to me and said, I'll buy you as many of these as you need. And that was the last we spoke of it. Funnily enough, I never saw that kid again. I don't know if he changed schools. I don't know what his parents did. But
You know, that reminds me of one of the kids who would be like a bully, like a racist bully towards me. The only time I actually got respect from people in my class, like I was like that little skinny brown kid just getting picked on and everything. I remember that there was one significant moment where I got the respect of like people who were in the more popular group in primary school. So maybe I'm like 11 years old, and this little racist prick, this little kid, I'm the referee in the football game. No, not the referee. I'm the goalie. So I'm stood in goal. I've got to like block the ball from getting past me. So I'm stood there, and he keeps like coming up behind me and pushing me, and he pushes me over like 3-4 times, and it fucking hurts. I fall on my knees, my hands there. I remember they started getting bloodied up, and I was such a fucking pussy that I did nothing about it. Like I wouldn't even kind of look at him. I didn't even want that confrontation. But then one time, the enemy team, is that what you even call them? The other team, they're getting close with the ball, and one of the guys scores, and everyone, like all the players, are quite close to the goal, you know, because there was a bunch of like kicking around right here, right here, right here. Then they score, so I let the ball go past me. They score, and everyone's like, oh, you know, whatever, like, oh, Hamza let the ball through. And then that same fucking kid trips me up one more time, but this time everyone's around, and I get like so, you know, I don't know what, it's that same phrase everyone uses at this point where it's like something just comes over you and like enough is enough. And I remember just running up to him, putting him into like a dangerous fucking headlock, tears down my face, drop us to the floor, and I'm just not letting go, and like the teacher's trying to pull my arm away, and I'm literally like suffocating him inside of my, like headlocks were my favorite. I've never, not till I was an adult, but I've never actually thrown like strikes at anyone, but I would always just get these little dumbass kids into like these racist ass kids into a headlock. And I remember like he was like screaming, crying and everything. He couldn't breathe. Like, you know, he was panicky. The teacher was trying to pull us off. I was literally just holding on for dear fucking life, tears down my face. And as soon as like the teachers stopped us, and you know, like everything kind of like the commotion stopped a bit, I literally remember one of the kids who wasn't really my friend, who never, you know, didn't really have much respect for me, look me in the eyes with almost awe and say like, wow, Hamza, I didn't know you could fight like that. That one time where I actually stood up for myself and stopped being a fucking pussy. Opposite of what was advised to me. I was always advised to sit still, don't do anything, tell the teacher.
I never saw that child again. So even from a very, very young age, I was taught that going to authority and crying and hoping someone else is going to fix your problems is not the way a man should conduct himself. When I left Chicago, I moved to Luton, England, which was multiple times voted the worst town in England. It's a high crime rate. It's a very bad area. My mother and father broke up, so I was in a single mother household. And now I'm a person of color in a single mother household. I'm also the only American at the time in Luton. And I had, again, repeat problems in school. I was picked on for being the only American. I was picked on for not knowing things I should have known because I hadn't been through the English educational system. I'd been through the American educational system. And I had trouble in school again, but I stuck up for myself. Unfortunately, nothing got violent at any point. When people made fun of me, I stood up and said, listen, don't make fun of me. I'm from a different place and I talk differently. And I always understood that standing up for yourself, I never went to the teacher, I never cried to anybody else. I just stood up for myself. And over time, people learned respect for me and my boundaries, and they were very respectful of me. And I had a very positive experience from then on out in school by simply standing up for myself, because this is how I was taught to act. In high school, I ended up having a reputation of a guy that nobody really messed with. I certainly wasn't a bully, absolutely the opposite. No one really picked on me. I actually had a friend in school who was gay. I had 5 main friends in school, and I was also friends with a gay guy. And he would make fun of me for being American, and I would make fun of him for being gay back then. But the world was a very, very different place. This is many, many years ago. And we had friendly banter back and forth, but we were very good friends, and I stuck up for him and prevented anyone else picking on him all of the time. And the banter between us, the locker room talk, which would be considered absolutely unacceptable today, at the time was very, very normal. And we had a great time. We were good friends. And I heard from him, actually, after this ban. And he said, you should mention the fact that the things they say about you completely aren't true. And this leads me on to the reason I believe these narratives have managed to gain such a foothold in popular consciousness.
You know what he's just spoke about there is something I think a lot of young guys aren't really aware of. Is a core component of masculinity is criticizing your friends. So women, feminine women, and I don't say this as an insult, but it's kind of like a stereotype that like feminine women gossip a lot. When they gossip, they're not doing it for the sake of the, like, imagine there's a group of women and they're gossiping about this woman here. They, you know, they're saying, oh, she's a slut. They're saying bad things about her. They're not doing this for her self-improvement. They're not doing this to help her, are they? They're doing this to almost like push her aside to kind of conduct a sense of group values. So that's, it's almost quite treacherous. But for men, we criticize men in our tribe, for the sake of self-improvement, we men come into this group together. There is no man out here. We're in this group together. And we say to this guy, oh, you're fat. And we don't say this to be horrible. We're saying this to test him. We're saying this to like spike something inside of him to see how secure he is in himself. We say this to another guy about his job, about something. We just criticize our friends. There's a chapter in The Way of the Superior Man that explains this a lot better than I could do for you, but we criticize our friends to see their areas of improvement and to also see how secure they are. And the more masculine you become, the more you relish, the more you like crave this masculine criticism from your friends. I love it when my close friends criticize me. It's deeply important. It's deeply important. Either they will criticize you about something that you're insecure about, and then that will like cause, you know, some thoughts that occur in your mind to think, okay, shit, I need to change something because clearly like that thing that my friend has just criticized me for is somewhat true. Or they will criticize you about something that you are totally secure about, and that will make you feel even more secure. When I was 17 years old, I had low quality friends. They criticized me for going to the gym for weightlifting. I was so secure in the fact that weightlifting and building muscle was a good thing that it didn't change my mind, that I was still going to go and lift weights. But then there's been so many things, like for example my dress sense, that would get criticized, and it would occur in my mind, I would be like, oh yeah, like I'm not actually good at fashion, like I'm not good at like buying clothes or something, so like they're probably right because these guys are a bit more fashionable, so what should I wear? Then I'm asking them for advice. They've just criticized what I'm wearing. I feel a little bit insecure in that, and I'm like, oh yeah, so there is some truth to that. So what Andrew Tate was just saying about him and his gay friend, they would criticize each other, and they were both secure in what they were talking about. He would criticize his gay friend for being gay, and his gay friend was so secure in that that's who he is, that he didn't have like a level of insecurity or like hatred towards that. You, as you develop yourself, will start to make friends with more masculine guys, and you'll notice that they'll like actually criticize some things about you. And you know what's interesting? That same friend, like I'm gonna keep mentioning him, even though like he's it's a fucking long story, man. But there's this friend who has betrayed me recently, and you know what I always he never criticized me. Can you guess why? I'm gonna read the comments. Can you guess why that is? Well, I've just told you. I've just taught you about masculine criticism. He never criticized me like that. Can you guess why that would be the case? I'd be very interested to see if anyone gets the right answer. Why did my friend who've just betrayed me never criticize me? He wasn't masculine enough. Do you know what he did instead of criticizing me for the sake of my improvements? He wasn't part of this circle, this masculine circle. He got into more of this feminine circle, and they gossiped about me instead. They gossiped about me and said, oh yeah, he's not part of our group's values. It's very interesting, like feminine men who display quite a high level of like feminine values, they will gossip about you, but not for your own sake. A masculine man will look you in the face, like your best friend will look you in the face and say, you're being pathetic. He will say something that like is so harsh to your face. But then guess what? That same masculine man will go behind your back and tell everyone he is a sick guy. I love him so much. Do you know the shit that I say to Sam's face? How many times I insult him, I swear at him, everything. And then think about how I talk to you about my friend Sam. Never a bad word out of my mouth, unless if it's about like his previous life a few years ago where I'm telling you the difference between his life. But I speak so highly of him when he's not around. A masculine man will criticize you to your face and show you nothing but respect when he's like gossiping about you. He'll only say good things about you. You'll leave the room and he will compliment you. A feminine man will only say good things about you to your face. He'll never criticize you to your face. And as soon as you're not there, they'll gossip about you. Now that I know the full story, if I told you the shit that this friend did to me, bro, holy fuck. It fucking hurts, man. I've been journaling. This is a side rant, but there's something I've been doing recently, which is journaling principles for life. Every time I experience some kind of mistake, problem, setback, failure, I journal and really break down the reason why and then the learning lesson. And then I really clarified that in my journal. I have a separate journal for this, which is like a principle for life. And I'm just tallying up these principles. And so one of them, a new principle that I've added to this sort of principle journal, do not trust feminine men.
Due to the fact I've managed to develop an iron mind, because I'm probably the only individual on earth who can be vilified to this level without taking personal insult and without being emotionally affected, what I've done is I've allowed certain narratives to gain traction, which I shouldn't have allowed to gain traction, because they didn't personally bother me, because I know they are false. I live with a very, very pure heart. I'm a religious man. I go to church, and anyone who follows me in detail knows I donate huge sums of money to the church. And as long as I knew the truth of my heart and God knew the truth of my heart, I wasn't interested in lies being purported. I now understand that's wrong, because even though I've done nothing wrong, even though it doesn't emotionally affect me, even though God and myself know my innocence, the public consciousness has been polluted to a point where narratives are being purported which are absolutely and utterly false. And it's having a genuine negative impact on the people who I care about and the people who care about me. And despite the fact it doesn't emotionally affect me, as a man, I have a duty to protect all of those I love. And for this reason, these narratives have started to become very, very harmful. I was under understanding that on the internet, people don't like you. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you say. There's going to be some people who don't like you, and the people who don't like you are not interested in the truth. What they're interested in is finding some lie that they can latch onto and accelerating that lie on as much as possible via their platforms to try and paint a negative picture of you because they don't like you. A lot of these attacks against me are disguised under the virtue of caring about women. But none of these people who are attacking me care about women. None of them donate to women's charities. None of them donate to charity like I do. None of them help anybody like I do. I'm about to show, later on in this video, proof of the massive work I do for helping people. They don't help anybody. All they do is just attack me and use fake virtue, the fact they pretend to care.
You know, it's so easy to criticize a man in this space of like men's self-improvement, the manosphere, the red pill, to say that, you know, they hate women. And I've had the same criticism to myself. And I always just think, like, have you not watched my videos? If you criticize me for hating women, for thinking women are inferior to men, do you not see how much effort I have put into myself to develop myself to be a better man, to attract like a good woman? My channel's like the underlying theme for every part of my self-improvement. It's so many guys have criticized me and saying like, oh, you know, don't do it for women, do it for yourself. The underlying theme for all of the hard work that I've done is that I want to improve myself so that I can be like that perfect father, that perfect husband. These guys who criticize me and like, oh, you know, like he's sexist, he's misogynist. They don't know how much work we're actually putting in to become like better for our future partners. When you think about the stuff you're doing here, you're journaling, meditating, exercising every day, improving your diet, reading all this, like all of this stuff we're doing to improve ourselves makes us into better partners for the women that we eventually get with. That is a gift that we've been preparing for years. But people will think you're sexist because you think the traditional way of things is probably a little bit better than the modern way.
As a reason to attack somebody who they personally don't like. And it's very, very different to actually care about an issue or weaponize an issue and pretend to care to try and damage someone else's life. These are very, very different things. And this is the reason why I have not tried to dispel these myths as hard as I could have, because I understood that these people are always going to hate me and they're always going to lie about me, no matter what I say or do. But considering in light of the final ban, and considering I have a public consciousness, I think it's extremely important that for myself and for my family and for people I care about, that I tell the truth and I make the truth known to the world, because that is the only intention in my video, is to sit and tell the truth. And the fact that I'm a very, very iron-minded individual who is not negatively affected by these smear campaigns is not reason enough for me not to sit, take time, and dispel all the negative things which are said about me. I am fully aware that not everybody is going to agree with what I say. I don't think there's a person on the planet you can find who has a 100% approval rate. There's always going to be somebody who disagrees with what you say. If I said the earth was round, there would be a contingent of individuals on the planet who disagree with me. I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. I have no problem with being seen as controversial for some of the things I've said. However, I do have two significant problems I would like to address. The first is I do not like absolute and utter lies being told about me. I do not like having long-form video of me cut up, elements taken out of context, the tonality of the joke removed, and purporting an image of me that is not true. That's something I do not like. I do not like false accusations of criminal activity. That's another thing that I really do not like. I am totally aware that not everybody is going to like me. I have no problems with that. I think anyone who decides to get big on the internet needs to be very, very prepared for a contingent of people to not be happy with what they say. I could make a YouTube channel dedicated to the fact that I believe the world is round, and there would be a large or semi-large proportion of people who would disagree with me. I don't think there's a single creator online that has a 100% approval rate. I have a lot of people who love what I say. I have a lot of fans. A lot of people are dedicated to my channel, and I have a lot of positivity online. And I have a small contingent of people who are very, very offended by what I say. We often talk about, in the modern world, the inclusivity of different cultures, different ways of life, different sexual orientations, and how we need to be tolerant and understanding of all these different people's life paths, and by extension, their different ways of viewing the world. I'm a unique individual, as is everybody else, and I have a unique life path that has led me to unique points of view. I think that all of the people who disagree with me are very, very welcome to disagree with me because they have had a unique life path and a different point of view, and I respect that absolutely. I would never shout for any of the people who disagree with anything I say to be silenced or canceled, because I don't think that helps the world. I think that discourse is always going to be the way that we lead ourselves to the truth. And if anybody has anything...
So I watched 12 minutes of this this video before I started live streaming. And it's that sentence he said that like discourse, this conversation or debate between two people with opposing views to come together respectfully to come to like some kind of agreement or, to discuss their ideas. That's why I just started this live stream, and I thought I've always held off discourse and debates. I've done very, very little of that for my entire like YouTube career because I've always thought it's a bit more like dopamine. It's a bit more, it's controversy. It's like, oh, like me versus sneako and me versus Hamza Reacts and stuff. And so you get more views and you get more growth. It's a lot of people are quite interested in that, but I've always thought it's like, oh, it's like low hanging fruit. It's like dopamine shit. But then just what he said then, I actually thought, wait, like if I debate my point in a very respectful way against someone who disagrees with my point, then you may see an argument for what I preach, but in a different light, which just spikes something in your brain that makes something click, and it's actually very valuable. So I will be looking at the comments of this full live stream when it's uploaded, and hopefully like some people will give me their thoughts on this. I don't want to make content that's entirely just clickbait and like dopamine filled and everything, but I think there is some real value in seeing like this, like essentially like I'm adding on, or I'm giving my opinion onto what Hamza Tate is saying here, and then we've got a video for sneako that we'll go through as well. So I wonder if there is value in that. It does seem like there would be, but I want my boys to sort of confirm that as well.
Contrary to say about any of my points of view, I welcome it, I like to hear it, and as long as it's in a respectful and adult manner, I often platform it on my platforms as much as possible so I can sit and discuss, and I can learn things. Because if I have a point of view and someone challenges it in a very adult, correct, logical way, very often I have changed my point of view. And this has been really, really good for me as a person to grow and for the audience to grow. And I know I've changed many other people's minds when they've come to debate with me. And this is the beauty of being human. So I have no problem with being disliked. I do have a problem with a few things. I have a problem with long format things I've said being taken out of context, taking a small clip from a 2-hour piece of video, then with careful editing, removing of tonality, and changing my intention behind the words, painting me to be a criminal or a bad person when I'm not. I do have a problem with false criminal accusations when I do not have a criminal record, and I have never had a criminal record in any country on the planet. I do have a problem with this. And also I have a problem with the fact that social media has changed so much in modern times. A lot of the things I said that are being used against me were said 5 or 6 years ago in long format video. And as of late, with TikTok, with YouTube Shorts, with Instagram Reels, it's very, very easy to take 2 hours of video, snip out 10 seconds, edit it up quickly on a phone app, and then blow it up to millions and millions of views with all context removed, all tonality removed, and makes it look like I'm saying things I did not say, or I mean things I did not mean. And this is something that I can't control. I became the most Googled man on the planet, and to a degree I'm a victim of my own success, because now people are trying to find any little clip of anything I've ever said, remove all the tonality, and just blow it up to try and get views to be as controversial as possible. I understand why they're doing that. I don't know if I
totally agree with what he's just saying recently. I mean, I agree with what he's saying, but I'm almost seeing like a little bit of a victim mindset, because I believe, from my understanding so far, is that him and his team have instigated this entire sort of TikTok marketing strategy where, people will come in, take clips of him and then post it to TikTok with the affiliate link to Hustlers University. So it's kind of like, he's a very smart guy, so I'm sure they would have assumed, well, yeah, people are going to go through your old videos and do this. So I don't know what you guys think, but I don't think I I think he should have been prepared for this. Like this was his marketing strategy overall, was to get people to, like, you know, go through your old videos and to take clips of it. But the effect of that can obviously be quite consequential. If, like, First Man, the YouTuber First Man, just said this on his video as well, where even First Man, so he's never said anything truly, like, offensive or sexist or anything, but he's just said on a video just recently.
Like that was a dig. But here's the thing: people will just. He went down a certain alleyway where he was like, "Okay, let's put this into hyper mode, because I'm getting. They're just chopping up clips.
Yeah.
Okay, you just get people doing that. Now, I'd like to encourage you guys who are involved in the affiliate.
So what happened to this YouTuber I really like, First Man? I'm sorry. He started the affiliate program as well, just like Andrew Tate, and he got people to cut up his clips and put it all over TikTok. And a lot of them are just about, like, you know, fitness and men's self-improvement, but of course some of them are about dating and women. And a couple of them went viral, the ones about women. And then he's had quite, like, a backlash in his personal life. I won't say, like, who particularly, you know, that's for him, and maybe you can go watch this video, but, like, people in his personal life have been affected because of that sort of short snippet video being sent around. And this is something I think we're going to see a lot more of. I think we're going to see a lot of people getting backlash from things that they've said, but that have went viral out of context into short clips all over TikTok. I think we're going to see this more and more. You might see this with me as well. You might see, like, a video of mine, like an old video of mine, maybe go viral. And a lot of, like, viral in a bad way, that a lot of people are like, oh my god, you know, cancel this packy.
For themselves, but they're not taking into consideration how that affects me and my personal image as a whole. And I think the things I've just highlighted has now culminated in the media believing something about me which is so pertinently false, based on videos that I have never even made, purported and accelerated and advertised by people who I don't even know, with such a small piece of video from me, with all context removed, that I've now become the #1 villain of Earth, and I truly believe that's unjust. And I want to discuss that here and prove to the world in my final message that I am not any of the things I've been accused of, regardless of whether I am banned, reinstated, remain on social media, is completely beside the point. This is just a matter of clearing the air while I have the national consciousness. I was massively a victim of my own success. I decided to accelerate my public persona and presence about 6 months ago, and I was massively successful. I became the most Googled man on the planet. I am, by the metrics of the internet, the most famous individual who is currently alive in the world today. That comes with a bunch of advantages and disadvantages. We can go into those at depth. The disadvantages are safety aspects, safety concerns, which we're going to talk about a bit later. I've had serious threats on my life.
You know, it took me a while to process that, but what he's just said, he showed the Google search results, and then he just gave that statement that he is essentially the most famous man on the planet today. And I was just in the car with a guy who goes to my gym. He's a father, and he had his 2 kids in the back, and they watch my videos, so it was, you know, a really wholesome experience. Like, we were all going to dinner, and we ended up speaking about Andrew Tate. The father had seen some clips about him, and he asked me, like, you know, what's going on, and me and the boys and myself obviously know about Andrew Tate, so we were kind of telling him, oh, you know, he's done this, he's done this. And this is where I really got to think more about Andrew Tate, because I was explaining it to a guy who doesn't really, you know, who doesn't really know his message, who's never really watched this stuff. And I found myself, I literally only had positive things to say. And one of the things I kept on saying was, like, I can't help but respect his success. Like, that statement he's made, it's like, we can't falter it. He became the most famous person in the entire world. And maybe it was, you know, it was a short span of like a month, 2 months, 3 months or something. But he literally became the most famous person. He has done something that no one else has ever done before, which was blow up on social media to a level we've never seen before. He started making millions, 5 to 10 million a month. We have never seen that happen before. He is quite like a pioneer of social media captivating attention. I'll say that in a better way. He is the pioneer of captivating attention on social media. We have never seen that success to this level before. And you can't, no matter what opinions you have of him, no matter how he makes, if you're more feminine and you're more in touch with your emotions, like I somewhat am, if you can't like let your emotions dictate too much of your actual rational thoughts. There has to be a level of respect for the guy, because that is an insane level of success.
5,000 death threats per day. So do people who I love and people I care about. They also receive death threats. The social media company.
And you know what? I was going to speak about Sneako later, but I feel the exact same way about Sneako. I made a video. You guys haven't seen it. It was on the second channel. Should I show you it now? Yeah, I'll show you it now. I spoke about sneako on my second channel, but I never released the video because I actually wanted to, but it's like a fucking 40-something minute video. I recorded it in 4K, so it took like most of a day to upload. I'm not sure if it's even uploaded. Oh yeah, it has. So I was speaking about affiliate marketing, and inside here somewhere in this video I spoke about sneako's success. Right. And I ended up saying so much nice things because I was like, I can't help but success him.
Like what Sneako's done, I'm not gonna lie, like whether you like him or you hate him, it's like you can't help but fucking of Andrew Tate, and especially of Sneako. Like what Sneako's done, I'm not gonna lie, like where there'll be his own level of like creative intuition and everything. And he saw the opportunity to jump on this trend of doing affiliate marketing, alpha male, live streaming, controversy and everything. He swallowed his pride, his ego, he fucking jumped on it. He's become extremely successful from doing that. And whether or not
maybe our values are different, but I personally can't help but respect a man who's become incredibly successful, especially in my space of social media as well.
Companies have yet to take any action against this. They were uninterested in trying to police this in any form. The advantages are, of course, is that I have a massive effect on people. And I have had thousands of emails from men saying, you saved me from depression, you saved me from suicide, you helped me so much.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's saved me from anything because I was already quite an improved man by the time I saw Andrew Tate's content, but he did help me quite significantly. And I mimicked not mimic, but I learned from his work ethic is the number one thing that I really learned from him. I remember sharing a video of his where he speaks about working hard and he speaks about like working relentlessly. I shared a video of it to my community post, and straight away there was like 100 comments of people, oh, don't share this guy, he's a sexist, he harasses women, he's a human trafficker, like all this shit. And like maybe I was too much of a pussy because I shared that video, got that somewhat of this backlash saying, okay, don't share Andrew Tate, and then I never really spoke about him again because I was like, okay, you know, people don't really like him, so I'll keep quiet and stuff. Like that was a little bitch move of myself. But what I will say is that he has changed the life of my best friend Sam. He has totally changed his life. The way that I see Sam navigate his life now that he has more of this like top G mindset's fucking so nice to see. He's like a young guy who has been bullied relentlessly for most of his life, and now he's finally got this level of like confidence and masculinity about him, and it's so fucking nice to see your brother like that, like just grow up. And he did it because Andrew Tate became somewhat of his role model. Which, do you know what I mean? Like, if you can experience what I can experience, imagine you really deeply care for your best friend, you see him like a brother, and then you see a guy who's very controversial, but that guy has become a good role model for your friend. You can't help but to like that controversial figure, no matter what anyone says about him, no matter whatever like news article comes about him. I will always have some kind of positive view towards Andrew Tate because he has had such a positive impact on my best friend. And when I say best friend, I mean Sam. This video is kind of tricky, and what I'm talking about is kind of tricky because I'm also talking about a best friend who betrayed me, and his name's not Sam. That's like a different best friend. Maybe I'll have to give him like an alias so you know who I'm talking about. But the best friend who betrayed me is not Sam, and Sam is the video editor. Sam is Harbonator. He's one of the video editors for the main channel.
The #1 video on my YouTube channel, my pinned video, has been for over a year. Mind hacks, how to beat depression, how to feel better as a man. Sitting there believing that depression is some monster from the sky that strikes your brain and now you have no control over it and you must take pills every day is the absolute enemy to a G mindset. I don't give a fuck how depressing my situation. The only person who can change it is me. The only person who can change how I feel about my situation or try and affect the situation directly is me. Even if you put me in a situation I can't change, if you put me in jail and I'm depressed because I'm in jail, I still refuse to succumb to depression. I refuse to collapse mentally and give up. I know the only person who can control my mind is me. Nobody's coming to save me. As a man who's been through such a difficult life, I think I have a very intimate understanding of difficulty and how to grow as a man and how to become the kind of man that can handle a difficult life, because this has been my life path. This is what God chose for me. And this is what I've been teaching. And I have affected positively millions of people, and I'm immensely proud of that. I truly am. However, people couldn't stop talking about me. And when people were talking about me, they weren't doing it out of love for me. They weren't doing it because they cared about me. The main reason people were talking about me so extensively is because they cared about their own channels, their own views. They wanted their own clicks. And they understood that if they can make...
Well, remember what I just said before, that men who are more feminine will take part in that sort of feminine gossiping where they'll stand in a group and they'll talk about that outcasted person to really symbolize, okay, he's not one of us, he's not one of us. We have these values here, he's not one of us. Feminine men, like pushover men, will do this. But what Andrew Tate just said is like they haven't done this to sort of help him to help him grow, because that's the masculine criticism. You'll see a masculine man respond to Andrew Tate with something in which he could use to better his life. not as this kind of dynamic of like, oh, let's gossip about him because he seems kind of weird and we don't want to be a part of him.
Make a YouTube video purporting a lie about me or saying bad things about me, it's more likely to get clicked. It's more likely to get watched. It's more likely to get shared. Expose, Andrew Tate is this. Expose, Andrew Tate is that. And what's happened?
One sec, my camera's gonna die.
Is people through their own selfish desires trying to piggyback off the back of my